Hello and welcome to CNBC TV 18 special coverage here live from Davos at the World Economic Forum's meeting. I'm Shireen Bhan. For 20 years, CNBC TV 18 has been covering the action here in Davos. We've been bringing you insights on how the world is being reshaped by the many trends. The trends this year, of course, continue to focus around the intelligent age. Collaborating in an intelligent age, that is the overarching theme here that leaders will take up at the World Economic Forum. Within that, of course, AI continues to be center stage with a lot of AI-related investments grabbing headlines, and what big tech is likely to do with AI, the impact of that on productivity, on jobs, that will continue to be part of the conversations. The World Economic Forum also puts out lots of reports ahead of its annual meeting, including the Global Risk Report. Now, if you take a look at the Global Risk Report, over the next 2 years, the number one risk that the World Economic Forum highlights is disinformation and misinformation. But if you take a slightly long-term perspective, over the next decade or so, environment and climate-related concerns continue to be the chief risk, the key global risk that the World Economic Forum is flagging. What will all of this mean now as far as the world's energy transition roadmap is concerned? What will AI do in terms of reshaping energy demand? And where does India stand in all of this? Joining me now, back here in Davos on the program is Roberto Bocca, the man who looks at all of these issues for the World Economic Forum. Roberto, many, many thanks, and it's great to have you back on CNBC TV 18.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure.
Well, let's start with that. 2024, the uncertainty as far as the global macros were concerned did have an impact on the energy markets. How would you sum up the year gone by from an energy transition perspective?
Well, there were a lot of things happening, not last the many elections around the world that has put some geoeconomics challenge to the energy transition in itself. As we know, energy has always been at the center of geopolitical and, in this case, geoeconomical cases. So when we look back at 2024, I think we can look at a year that has been moving forward in the energy transition, not as fast as we would like. And by the way, energy transition, I mean security improvement, affordability improvement, and sustainability improvement. So there has been progress, but not as fast as we would like to see.
Not as fast as you would like to see. Let me now address the issue that everyone's trying to grapple with, the rise of AI and data centers coming up across the world at this point in time. How that's going to reshape energy consumption and energy demand?
I think the reshape is a very important element, because I think when we look at AI, we have to look at both the supply side, so how much more energy we need for AI, but also the demand side, so how much AI will allow to bring more efficiency and really reduce the energy demand. So if I look at the medium term, I think the two will probably compensate each other.
Okay.
The jury is still out there, but of course in the short term there will be some peak of demand, especially in special area or specific area where you have data center, as you were suggesting. But it's really interesting to see that we tend to think about what energy has to do for AI, but I think the key question is also what AI will do for energy.
What do you think, and let's address the second question first, what do you believe AI can do from energy's perspective? Because, as you talk about the fact that the hope is, or the bet is, that AI will improve efficiency, that AI will be actually able to bring down energy consumption. But what's the thesis there? What's the hypothesis?
Yeah, so there are two elements. First of all, AI itself, will need less energy going forward, if you like, because they will be optimizing more and more the algorithm and so on and so forth. But the other key thing is that if you look at energy system, they are quite inherently inefficient. And so AI can really help bring in an efficiency that is all at a different level. So that's what is our hypothesis that we'll watch carefully going forward.
And let's now talk about demand and the kind of demand explosion that we're likely to see on account of AI and how that's going to be met. Because this move towards nuclear power, how much of that is at an inflection point today?
So it's very interesting, because there is a lot of hype around AI, but there is a lot of growing demand when it comes to electricity, also because of the electric vehicle, because of the cooling system and so on. So in general, there is a growth in electrification and in demand from that side.
So it's not just AI.
It's not just AI. That's a great point. And I think the other element is that nuclear is part of the solution that many more countries and companies are now looking at as a solution for supplying the growing demand, but also to decarbonize the energy system. So again, it's not only about AI, and nuclear is not only a solution for AI, but it's a solution that is now put on the agenda by many governments to reconsider.
So the growth of small modular reactors, how are you anticipating that?
So this is a great point, because the other element that there is on the nuclear re-look, if you like, global re-look, is that there are the old station, big power station, but also you have now the new technology, the small modular reactor. Some of these small modular reactor can even reuse nuclear waste of the past. So it's really a big opportunity, and I think this is really a future. We have seen some starting being deployed already of this modular reactor, so we have to see how fast that can be, but definitely it could be part of the solution.
What do you believe big tech can do as far as reshaping energy consumption is concerned? We've already seen the likes of Amazon, Microsoft, Google and others look at the nuclear power option. How do you see that evolving?
Yeah, I mean, if you look maybe 3 years back, there was a lot of attention on solar and wind. I think because they are looking for a lot of energy, now they are looking at all the options that are allowing them to decarbonizing. So I think really their push on nuclear will also influence how government will think about, what is our energy mix of the future.
Let's talk about India. You're going to be in India for the India Energy Week in February. So I want to understand from you how you've seen India's progress as far as the renewable energy side is concerned, and the role that you believe India is likely to play in the energy market in 2025.
I think it's going to be, the reason why I'm there is actually because I believe India is going to be one of the places where the energy transition will happen or not happen. And I think the progress on the renewable is quite outstanding. And so I think the big challenge now is keep going, because growing at the size of the energy demand that is also growing in India is really, really a challenge in itself for any country. Yeah. But I think there are a lot of the legislation that have been put in place, some of those what we call the enablers, the condition to enable that are in place. So I'm very
So you believe that the enablers that you spoke of are in place to be able to do this 27-30 gigawatts annually, or do you believe that we could potentially be looking at much more than that to achieve that big 500 gigawatt number?
Yeah, I always think that India is great because it's, I would say, under promise and over delivering. So that's definitely my hope. And I think in terms of enablers, many are put in place. There are still more things that other countries can learn from India, but also India can learn from other countries.
What should we learn from other countries, and who should we be learning from?
No, that's it's a very tricky question, but I think there are a lot of attempts to accelerate the investment in clean energy in emerging market, in many markets. And so we actually at the forum we have developed a playbook where we have 100 solutions to look in different markets what works and not. So it's not a cookie cutter. You can't say that you have to move, but we can look at other options, and India has done that so well so far, and I think my encouragement is just to keep doing that, keep learning and keep implementing.
Well, we look forward to seeing you back in India. But, since you were talking about investments, Roberto, and I was looking at a number that the BEF has put out, that an additional 30 trillion in investments will be needed by 2050. Now, where do we get this capital from?
Yeah, these are investments especially for the hard-to-abate sector. How we decarbonize the hard-to-abate sector while we are still creating jobs and GDP. And so where do we get them? First of all, that number can be reduced by AI. Okay. We have looked at that there is 5 to 10 trillion of that can be taken out because of the capital efficiency brought by AI. And for the rest is really to focus on the business case for the energy transition. One of my key messages always is not just a transition for environment. Yeah. It's good for business as well, and it's a business opportunity, it's job opportunity, and the like. So I think that the opportunity is what we should focus on, and what is the business case and the economic case.
But do you believe that we will be able to generate this kind of capital, to fund the transition that you speak of?
Well, when the world wants to solve issues, normally we find a capital. If you think at what we did with COVID in terms of vaccine and accelerating those, yes. But I think in this case, what is really important is that the business and economic case are very clear, and actually here in Davos we'll be really tackling this issue.
Well, talking about the net zero goal now, and you have an industry tracker which says that we're far off pace to achieve net zero by 2050. What would you say have been the reasons for the derailing of this goal, for the setbacks that we've seen along this way?
Well, first of all, the good news is that the hard-to-abate sector, the industrial sector, if you like, they have improved more than the rest of the energy system. So the direction is right, but as I was saying earlier, the speed is not what is needed. And so I wouldn't say there is a derail, but it's that you need so much investment, as you were hinting earlier, that is really difficult to do this transition. So the business case is critical. And so it's not that there is a derailing, it's just that it's needed investment, and so that's the challenge.
So, Roberto, let me end by asking you, we talked about some of the trends that could shape the energy markets, but let's also address minerals. In the race and the hunt for minerals today, of course, China plays a very critical role. How do you see that market evolving in 2025?
It's a very important question because the evolution of the energy system is going to require more minerals and materials than before, if you like. And so there is more of a national security issue and also more of an attention. And we saw some trend where already in the past, a few of the traders were working in that market, and now we are seeing more and more of the traders that beyond going in the oil and gas sector, they also go in the mineral sector because there is an opportunity. And again, yes, it's a challenge, but it's also a business opportunity. That's why we are seeing that people who want to do business go in that sector. So I'm very hopeful also in there that there will be a progress. The question is always the speed.
Yes, the question does come down to speed and execution of some of the measures that we spoke of. Finally, the price dynamics, what do you believe will impact, what will dictate or weigh on the way we see prices, especially oil prices, move through 2025?
Yeah, that's always a great question, right? So there is always the macro question, what the economy will do, what India economy will do, what China economy will do, Europe, US, etc. And then how much also the new administration in the US, for example, will accelerate or will be able to accelerate more production.
What do you anticipate? Because President Trump has basically, through his campaign, said, drill, baby, drill. So what do you expect the US to do in terms of production? And if they do enhance production from the current levels, what could that mean as far as prices are concerned?
Well, if you think of today, US is already the biggest oil producer of the world, bigger than Saudi Arabia. So there is not a huge margin for growth. And then, to answer your question, I think we have just to watch what is going to happen on Thursday, since we'll have Trump that will be here. So we'll hear from him directly.
Yes, we will hear from President Trump directly. But what would you like to hear from President Trump, which would be relevant to the energy and mineral and material market, Roberto?
I think is somehow that energy and material are going to be central to the development of the economy of the future, as they are today. And so making sure that the investment are going in that sector, it's very important.
So what if the tariff threats, the threats against the likes of Canada, etc., play out? What impact could it have?
Look, this is a great question, and we have to see what will be the real fact. But if you look at the geopolitical and geoeconomical issues, have always been at the center of the energy system. So
it's not new.
It's not new, and the system is quite resilient, and it will adapt. So I'm a great believer in the resilience of the energy system, and it will adapt to whatever things will happen, and hopefully all the things that happen will still enable an energy transition that allow secure, affordable, and sustainable energy.
So if I were to ask you to give me a headline for 2025, what would the headline read?
Well, it's still the same. How do we accelerate the speed of the energy transition?
Accelerating the speed of the energy transition. Many opportunities, many risks that we need to contend with as well. But Roberto, always a pleasure. Many thanks for joining us here on our live coverage of Davos in the CNBC TV 18 studio, and we look forward to seeing you back in India.
Looking forward. Thank you very much.
Well, this is just the start of our conversations. That was Roberto Bocca from the World Economic Forum giving us an overview of what the energy markets are likely to shape up to in 2025. There's a lot more coming up. We talk about healthcare, we talk about AI and more right after this short break.